Hey guys, welcome to what's going to be our review of Sniper Elite 3. We've now played through the entire campaign, and myself, Daryl, and Nelson are basically going to take you through our thoughts, right, Nelson?
Yep, pretty much. I mean, mostly my thoughts.
Yeah, mostly your thoughts, as you're the one who had the pleasure, I'll say, of playing through the game, and I was able to just watch.
Yep, which was thrilling, I'm sure, for the most part.
You don't know how thrilling it was. I think I'd say it was comparable to many things. I was going to say paint drying, but I think that's a bit harsh, honestly. But no, it was good. I think obviously we've played the previous games and we've played many other games of similar ilk, like Ghost Warrior. Sorry if that's a bad comparison to make, but they are quite similar in my opinion.
In terms of sniping,
one's probably better
yes.
than the other. I'm not going to say which. But
I will.
but no, I think like I'm sure as you found when you were playing through, like you always start off with good intentions, but it just gets boring after a while.
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky. I mean, I tried different approaches throughout the entire campaign just to see what would kind of be more entertaining to watch, but then it didn't really work out either way you did it, really, to be honest.
Well, even still, like, obviously we were thinking about you guys when you were watching too. Like the previous stuff that we've done has been much more action-packed, I'd say.
Yeah, there's been more going on.
This was much more of a stealth approach. Obviously, initially Nelson was trying to time his shots with the sound to make sure that no one was alerted to it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really sure if that ended up being faster or slower than just
I still don't know.
blazing.
I still don't know. It's quite tricky to say. I mean, I'm sure there'll be people out there who put up speed runs of doing the levels in super fast times.
Yeah, I'm sure you can just run past everyone if you want to.
I imagine so. That's the problem, isn't it? You don't really know if that's the right way to do things or not.
So let's just kind of get to the nitty gritty. How did you feel the sniping mechanic worked?
I think that was actually probably fine. I mean, the only thing that was a bit weird is it kind of felt like there was some ricochet mechanic, but it didn't really specify that existed. Like when shots were going over the top of enemies' heads instead of, landing short or whatever.
Well, you mean like ricocheting off the helmets and stuff like that?
Yeah, like they were going up over things as opposed to, bouncing off targets or whatever. But I mean, that didn't happen very often, so I don't know if that was just a bug or whatever. But I mean, the rest of it, like, the only thing that was kind of a bit underdone was the wind mechanic. Because in Sniper Elite 2, they used to have like flags and different bits in the level that you could see moving, and you kind of get an idea of.
Yeah, I guess because in this one, obviously, you're very much encouraged to use the focus.
Yeah, well,
so that's basically how you can kind of get an auto shot, let's say, where it's going to tell you exactly where you need to aim to hit a certain point. Whereas if you don't use that, there's almost no way, unless you kind of just judge it by yourself and kind of guess where you need to aim, because you don't. Yeah, as you said, there's not really. Well, I didn't see any really obvious visual cues as to kind of say, well, the wind's going this way. Like it's.
Well, no, there is. There's the bar thing at the top of the screen, but it's never really used in the game. Or at least you don't need to pay attention to it at all. At least it never feels like there's too many extremes to it. And the other thing, of course, is the focus you mentioned. I believe when you actually play an authentic, it actually removes that. I mean, the focus is still there, but you don't get the red marker.
Okay, so you just basically you just get a bit of slowdown.
Yeah, which is, sort of useful. I mean, it fine-tunes your aim to a pinpoint shot instead of, a more unprecise, accurate. Well, still accurate, but not quite as much.
It's the kind of game where, like, I found that obviously when you're playing stealth games like Splinter Cell or Metal Gear Solid, you can go through stealthy, and but it's still not necessarily that easy to do. Whereas in this, I felt that as long as you were just patient, methodical, kind of just timed your shots at the correct moments, it wasn't really that tricky. Like,
no, not really.
You could just go through. Like, the only time that you ever really got seen was when you did something stupid.
Yeah, although sometimes you get seen by people who were nowhere near everything.
Yeah,
so
or like they'll hear your footsteps even though they were miles away.
Yeah, which I don't know if I necessarily like that as much. I mean, I know it makes sense to have that kind of sound discrepancy when you're running or not crouched walking, but considering the scale of the levels, it's quite irritating when it's like, okay, I'm just going to crouch watch everywhere initially because I don't know where anyone is.
Yeah, we should reiterate here that the levels are pretty big.
Yeah, they certainly are.
I mean, like, I think on average you were taking like maybe an hour per
Yeah,
mission.
for the most part, every level took about an hour. The third mission was the one that probably took them the most time.
And it's not because like in typical first person shooters they have you go down like a linear corridor, and I guess in some instances, well, it's probably more the open world, like because I remember Operation Flashpoint, like the missions can take a while because you have so much land to cover, and like there's so many different ways you can go.
That's a bit more extreme.
I know it's like obviously, but
yeah, you can take your
there's so many different ways you can go, and if you end up in a dodgy situation, you can end up just waiting there for a little while to see if anything even passes so you can move on.
Yeah,
and you might have just kind of walked past them and cut off like 15 minutes of the playthrough just by doing that.
Like the whole thing with the bunker in the second to last episode, where I was kind of stuck in that building, not really sure whether I should just go back the way I came.
Yeah. Or... Do I look out this way and be greeted with a tank, or this way and be greeted with 2 snipers, or this way and 3 guys?
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of a good thing though about the game, is the fact that you do have that multiple approach thing on every kind of aspect to it. And there's no one way to do anything. I
also kind of liked how quickly you die as well, because it did really make you think about the repercussions of your actions. Because a lot of the time, I mean, like obviously when you're playing on the hardest difficulties, but you still feel like, to a degree, that you're this kind of invincible person. Like obviously we've just been playing through Killzone Shadowfall as well, and in that, even when you're playing on hard mode, like you can still take a fair amount of punishment.
Yeah.
Whereas on this, it was kind of like if you get yourself in a slightly dodgy situation, like
you're pretty much dead.
Hello tank.
Yeah, no, there's a lot less options. For
or hello sniper, even you just die.
Well, especially since the enemies seem to all spot you in that zone you're in.
Yeah, so I guess that brings us on very nicely to the, I was gonna say, interesting alert mechanic. So I think we discussed this in one of the earlier episodes. But basically, they put in a system where if you get seen by someone, everyone inside a circular sphere can see you. Like no matter if they could physically see you or not, they know where you are if they're inside that radius. Yeah.
Yeah,
and
they know the point where you were.
If you move and get seen, that then shifts to a new center.
Yeah.
And the whole point is that you're a sniper, so if you're seen, you're supposed to relocate.
Yeah. But it doesn't really work out quite the same.
No. And it kind of ends up in really awkward situations where you get a bad checkpoint because it's often saves after you relocate, but you can end up in a really bad situation. And it just, I don't know, it's obviously there to force you to relocate. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
But
which is a good mechanic in itself, but the problem is it's handled a little bit weirdly in places.
It's like, it's just so difficult to not compare it to other stealth games where it's pretty much about who's seen what and how far it travels by word of mouth and noise. Like if people hear someone shouting in, like, say, Splinter Cell, for example, anyone who's in earshot of that will also hear it.
Yeah, which is different.
And they'll come over and see. Like, they won't necessarily shout themselves, but they'll go over and see. And they'll kind of crowd around where you were. So if you quote-unquote relocate in that, it makes sense. Like, the relocation makes sense in that instance. And I think Splinter Cell did it really well by having that kind of silhouette thing that kind of stays where you were.
Yeah.
Whereas in this, it's like, I remember you were hiding down a hole and you're thinking, there is no way anyone could possibly have seen where I'd gone.
Yeah. But and they all fell down that hole after me.
They're just standing there watching, and then I think, didn't you climb out and then get shot by a sniper somewhere who, like, there's no way in hell he didn't know where you were.
He was like on a cliff on the other side of the map, and it's just like, oh, he knows, he's got communication.
Oh no, that was it, wasn't it? You climbed out of the hole, went around a corner to like another part of the map, and you walked out and just got shot.
Yeah.
Fair enough, he may have just been watching the whole time.
He could have been. I mean, he could have seen the commotion, I suppose, but there's no way he could have seen me go through the way I went and known I was going to come out of that particular area. It just, I don't know.
So yeah,
the fact they know that you're American all the time.
I'm going to say I didn't like it, but I understood why they'd done it. I just think it could have been done a lot better.
Mm-hmm. I think the problem is that the AI doesn't react to what you're doing. They don't react to what each other's doing. They react to the cue of the relocate. And that's it. So there's just like, okay, you've been detected. all the AI knows where you are. It's not the AI is now responding to this situation.
Yeah, and that was the annoying thing as well, because I think, especially with this, so you can shoot a barrel miles away, and if people aren't in the set, you're supposed to hear this radius, they just basically ignore it and act as if nothing's ever happened. Like, and there's no awareness with the AI. Like, if you shoot someone, go 40 meters south and then come back, a guy will just look at the body and be like, oh, okay, well, it's not really an issue, is it?
Occasionally they'll stay alerted, but they won't do anything. They won't react to it. They'll just stand there staring at it. The yellow marker might be over their head still, but they won't actually re-alert or anything. They won't be like, who shot this guy? You know.
It's not really much of an issue. But there also is, I'm sure there are instances as well where you like shot someone. Well, yeah, if you shoot someone under the mask of sound, even if someone else is looking at that person, they won't even care.
Yep. That's bizarre as well. I mean, that's something that they kind of... I don't know what they did with the sound mechanic, to be honest. Because it was in the other games, but it's more kind of like environmental. So like bombs going off, or shells going off, or sirens going off, or something that was kind of more map-wide. And now they've kind of condensed it to these smaller set pieces. Like, oh, there's a generator next to you, so you can hide your shots. But that doesn't really make any sense in the grand scheme of things. If someone gets shot on the other side of the map, they're going to hear his helmet like shatter or something happen, or he maybe even scream.
They're going to know he's dead, whether you mask the sound of the shot or not.
I mean, it makes sense they don't know where it came from, but they don't react to the dead guy either. So it's a bit hit and miss in that respect. And I think that's kind of something they didn't do very well, as the AI doesn't react to each other. So it's...
Yeah, well, I guess you can't win them all. Either way, I'm really pleased that they put in the different variety of shots. So you've got like headshots, heart shots, long shots, intestine shots, ball shots. Anything else that I'm missing?
I don't know. There's a lot of different
kidney
bone
shots?
snappings.
Kidney shots, right?
Yeah, there's kidney shots, and there's a liver one. I don't think there is. It might be. But
either way,
you can break legs
eyes
off.
up, and yeah. It's pretty gruesome. So if you want to play it just for that, then feel free. Yeah, and they kind of put in the vehicle animations too, which are, I guess, nice, but also a little bit weird.
I mean, they work quite nicely. I mean, you've got the engines that explode when you shoot them, and they sort of, I don't know, I suppose the combustion chamber's going to go a bit mental. And
turn around very quickly.
Yeah, it's that as well. I mean, that doesn't happen too often, but it is a bit strange when the tank just turns 180 degrees to instantly rotate to you and look at you menacingly.
Yeah, I guess the only thing we need to cover off is the story. That's the last thing, which is, I'd say, pretty forgettable.
Yeah. I mean, the whole thing doesn't really make a lot of sense. Well, there is. I mean, it's one of those things that... We're obviously not going to add spoilers, but I mean, if...
like, there aren't any, come on.
I mean, not really, but there still are-ish. But the problem is the plot is just so bad. It feels like they shouldn't even bothered. It's just...
Yeah. It's just like, guys, come on. We need some excuse to have this kind of going on. They might as well have just let you create your own character, though. I mean, like, that's how little character development this guy has.
Yeah. And actually, one of the other things that kind of annoys me is the fact that the early mission, the very first opening mission, you kind of feel like you're part of the army or you're part of the division you're working with, like the allies are kind of relying on you to...
I'm not with them, screw that.
Well, no, they just drop you off at areas and go, right, you, go do all this stuff over there. Don't worry about the 100 Germans or Italians or whatever's over there, just go kill them all.
Yeah,
exactly. It's like, it's one man.
So,
it's not a sniping job.
How many Nelsons out of 5 are you going to give this?
God. I don't know, it's...
3 Nelsons?
I think it is a 3, to be honest. I honestly don't see it being higher. There's a fair amount of content to it. For the most part, what it does works, but it just feels like it's lacking a lot, and there's a lot of stuff that's a bit unpolished. It's quite buggy and a bit...
Yeah, I'd pretty agree with that. I mean, it's like, what's there is good. It just feels that some of it could have been a bit better polished, and yeah, I'd go along with that.
And the rest of the stuff, like the multiplayer, doesn't really add a great deal to the game. Not enough to keep you playing it.
So yeah, let us know what you think, if you've managed to play the game so far, and if not, please check out our playthrough. And we'll see you for our next line of videos.
Yep, whatever that will be.
Yeah.
We'll be discussing that soon.
See you later, guys.
See ya.